Hello, my name's Amanda. Welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about solo female traveling over the long term. I've been a traveler for about 7 years. A lot of this will apply to male or female, but I'm just sharing through a female perspective, obviously. And I'm going to share about 7 things I love about it. After that, I'll share a couple of my favorite destinations that I stayed at for months, a little bit longer term, as a digital nomad, and some of my favorite perks of those places. So I'm going to share in this video from the perspective, like a holistic perspective, not just, the physical things, but also from a spiritual perspective, a kind of like a psychological, transformational perspective. And yeah, so you're going to get a little bit of everything. So my background, I worked for 13 years as a paramedic, and I had a near-death experience in 2017, which turned my life upside down. It was in a car accident. The car landed upside down. And this gave me an immense spiritual shift in perspective. The link to that video is in the description. And it led to me making a lot of sudden changes in my life over the next few months, up to about a year. So I ended up leaving my long-term relationship and selling my house and moving into my camper van. And I lived in the camper van on and off for about 2 years, mostly in the camper van, except for a couple cold months when I went to Mexico. And the camper van was an amazing transition. I loved living in the van. I was able to take time off work because I had savings from my house. And then and then I started doing some trips. I did some shorter trips at first, Hawaii, Guatemala, Mexico, Ireland, Scotland, England, Bali. I also visited, I think that's it for the short trips. And then, so then around that time, COVID hit, and I realized, oh my goodness, if I stay in Canada, I might be locked in there. So I returned to Mexico, and then that's kind of like when the long-term slow travel started for me in 2020. So 7 things that I absolutely love about it. So first thing is a financial simplicity. So I don't have any bills. I have a cell phone, a pay-as-you-go cell phone, which is pretty inexpensive, especially in the developing world. I never pay more than $15 for my cell phone. I pay as you go. And my rent, I normally live in Airbnbs. I'll talk about a few other more alternative ways of living that I have experimented with, but generally Airbnbs, you can find really nice ones. The one I live in now is about, let's say $400 US, maybe a bit less. And it's got Wi-Fi, weekly room cleaning, a gorgeous courtyard with trees and a bonfire pit and lovely neighbors. And it's really easy to find nice places to live for really affordable prices in the developing world. And local food, like I grabbed a bunch of stuff from the market this morning, and I think it was $6 US for, I got an avocado, 2 mangoes, an onion, 2 tomatoes, 2 plantains, large container of local yogurt, a block of local cheese, and a block of tofu for $6 US. So not only is the food inexpensive, it's usually local, making it inexpensive because it's not traveling from very far, often homemade, and fresh. My digestion always seems better when I am abroad or in places where I can buy local food. So once you are relocated, usually actually life is quite inexpensive, and what you get is actually pretty high quality. Number 2, minimalization. So I live out of a suitcase. I have a full video about that as well, which is in the description. But after I sold my van, I sold and gave away everything that was in the van except for my suitcase. I do have 1 box of belongings in Canada with my family. But yeah, I have found that everything that I need fits in a suitcase. I actually also have 2 musical instruments. So yeah, like the amount of satisfaction and freedom and like wholeness that you can feel living out of a suitcase is pretty incredible. I was inspired first by a guy who was traveling in Bali from, I think, Australia, who had been living out of his backpack for years. He was well dressed, educated, and a surfer that I met in a surf hostel. And he told me that he lived out of his backpack and he loved it. And I was like, how could anyone do that, you know? But I was inspired, and it is actually very doable. I've been doing that now since 2020. I actually first started with like a suitcase, a carry-on, and like I think another bag, and then I just found it too burdensome to move between places with all that. So now it's just a suitcase. Anyways, the only thing that I really miss, to be completely honest, is books. My last time I went home to visit my family in Canada, kind of reorganized the suitcase, and when I left, I actually dumped a few clothing items in order to put English books in my suitcase because sometimes I miss English books when I'm abroad and I wanted to stock up. So the minimalization has been pretty amazing to know that you can feel like you have everything you need and it all fits in a suitcase. You don't lose stuff. There's less stuff to wash and clean. You don't have closets full of stuff that you never use. You're never decluttering. It's pretty nice. Number 3, you get to learn things you wouldn't learn at home. So I'll give you an example. I'm taking dancing lessons right now, which cost $17 for 2 lessons, and the lessons are 2 hours long. They're private lessons with an excellent dance instructor. These kind of prices, we just don't get back home. And some other things that I have taken lessons for are, language lessons, local cooking lessons, art classes featuring local techniques, singing lessons, and besides that, there are always things to explore where locals can show you around for really inexpensive. Of course, it supports the local teachers and the local economy, but stuff like guided hikes and city tours. And I went on this really cool graffiti spray paint wall tour and experimentation in Mexico City recently, where you could do your own graffiti and see some of the work of the graffiti artist and learn some techniques. So all for like super cheap prices, like super inexpensive prices. All of these things that I'm talking about, like one lesson is never more than like $20. So an incredible opportunity to learn things that, you just might not have the time or the money to back home. Number 4, cultivating a relationship with self and confronting loneliness in a very real way. So I love this because when you are on the road and you are solo traveling, you have this opportunity to get to know yourself in a really profound way that is not possible when you're around other people. And yes, it can bring times of loneliness. It absolutely can. But on the other side of loneliness, you gain yourself as a best friend in a way that you couldn't before the experience. And what that does is then when you are around other people, you appreciate them in a different way, not in a way where you need their energy or their attention, in a way where you're already okay with the presence and the center on the inside of yourself. And so everybody else, it's just a joy. It's just an experience. You don't feel the need to be possessive or attach unnecessarily to other people. You can just really be in the moment and enjoy them in a different way. And being solo traveling on the road for long weeks or months alone gives you that. You actually realize, wow, like I do have a deeper self that is always here for me. And there is access to it when things get silent. And also the relationship within that, the relationship between yourself and silence. Silence does not, it is no longer scary. It's like a comfort. It's like a warm blanket. And so, you face all these things and you realize on the other side, there's a lot of magic. So developing the relationship with the self in a way that is not possible when other people are around. The appreciation of spiritual traditions. So I've had the chance to attend lots of sacred ceremonies, meet elders, talk to people about spiritual traditions, and I'm not coming at it from a dogmatic perspective. I'm talking about from a mystical perspective, a really earthy, heart-centered perspective where you meet people from different traditions and different backgrounds who are connecting with God inside in a way that makes sense to them through their own tradition. And at the end of the day, realize, and you don't need to travel to realize this, obviously, but it becomes really amplified when you travel, that yeah, that really heart-centered people are heart-centered people and they're connecting with the divine. And it doesn't really change between cultures. And it's really refreshing to see that. I can't say the same for organized religion and people that are really caught up in that. But the people that I have met that are really down to earth and really full of faith and love and heart-centeredness, there's no real difference between us around the world. It's kind of like ice cream, ice cream is ice cream. You can have all different flavors, but at the heart of it, it's the same substance, it's the same essence. And it's really beautiful to see and experience that after a while of all these different countries. You start to be able to pick out the people who are genuine more quickly after you've seen a bit of both. Number 7, I guess it kind of goes with number 4 about loneliness, but number 7, oh no, sorry, I skipped number 6. Number 6, the development of an inner home. So when you don't have a home that you own or rent long term and you're staying in different accommodations, over time, what is constant is you and the ingredients that make you become your home. So, the little rituals you have, the time you get up in the morning, the way that you cook your food, I have a little routine where I love, no matter where I live, I love going on Saturday nights to try and find some live music. And these kind of things, just your home becomes you in a new way because you're no longer anchored to a specific house, specific belongings, like sometimes we are paranoid, like if we lose our house or we lose our belongings, like where is our anchor? We could get all, have a breakdown over that. And really, when you solo travel for a long period of time, you're not worried about losing a house or losing belongings, and nobody can take you away from you. So it brings a new confidence and a new experience of freedom and safety within yourself because you are your home, no matter what. You've got you. And then, now number 7, friends and acquaintances around the world. You end up having a bit of a global community so that, no matter where you go, you have friends there, you have people there. You sometimes end up running into other travelers in different countries that you met them in. And you just start to see through a bit more of a global perspective and have a lot more understanding for differences between people because you've made friends in so many places with so many diverse people that it's really all about the heart. It's really all about the connection. It's not about the culture and it's not about how different people are from you. So it's really beautiful to be able to know that, if you're going back to the same place as you were before, if you've got a favorite place, there's going to be someone waiting for you there. Just kind of like having the experience of being a global citizen and seeing through that perspective. There's a few other things that I love that I want to mention. So I haven't just lived in Airbnbs. I've had some other great experiences for living situations. One of my favorite ones, or many of this style, is work trade. Websites like workaway.info, HelpX, where you can work for 25 hours a week in exchange for food and a place to live. And usually the hosts are very enthusiastic about showing you around their area. They're very proud of their area and are used to travelers. There are things you can do like you can work on an organic farm, you can take care of children, you can help run an Airbnb, doing the cleaning and the laundry. and the changeovers. You can do elder care. Sometimes there are places that want people to do their social media marketing. There's so many different things that you can do. There's something for everybody in all the corners of the world. Some of them you stay in a house with a family. Others, you have kind of like your own accommodation on the same property as the owner. There's just so many different spots, and it's a great way to meet other travelers. I always recommend going to ones that have lots of travelers there, so that you can meet a variety of different people. And a nice thing about those places is you can get ideas from other people about cool places to go that you've never heard of, that are off the beaten track, and kind of like follow those up, and you can find some real gems that way. Yeah, so work trade is great. What else? Yeah, big learning on boundaries. So, if you're somebody who doesn't have like really hard boundaries in life, who has difficulty saying no, traveling long term will force you to become a person that does do that, because not every culture is as laid back or polite as other cultures. And you're going to have to sometimes have really firm boundaries and use your voice and say no. And yeah, I think that for people who find that to be difficult, traveling long term will change that part and create a stronger way of using boundaries in the world. And some of us really need those lessons. Some of us really need those lessons. Um, the other thing that I have noticed along the way is self-care not being selfish. Self-care is not selfish. So at the beginning, I was less particular about what part of town I lived in or what my accommodations were like. I was just so excited to be on the road and exploring. But I found out pretty quickly that there are certain things that I really need personally to have self-care, and those things relax me and help me to have a better experience overall. And so you'll know what those things are for you, but long-term travel can help you to know what self-kindness looks like for you, as far as where you're living and the type of events that you're attending, and things like that. Um, and having discretion and choosing the things that you like, because there's a lot of stuff out there, there's a lot of options out there, but not everything is comfortable, not everything is going to put you at ease, and you're already in usually a culture that doesn't even belong to you. You're a guest there, things are different, so you want to make yourself as comfortable as possible. And I know, yeah, like I just remember beginning kind of like backpacking kind of style, in different hostels. I wouldn't recommend, if you're a solo female traveler, to go in a hostel with mixed dorm, unless you're really hearty. Things like that. I used to just be like, oh, whatever. But now I would choose a female only dorm or a private room in a hospital. Things like that, that just, yeah, put your body and your mind at ease while you are traveling. Um, Developing, this is more on the spiritual side, but it's actually one of the biggest things that I appreciate about traveling is randomness. So when I lived in my house and I had the same routine every day, and I lived in Canada and I didn't see a big variety of different people, there's only so many surprises that can happen. There's only so many synchronicities that can happen, because you're kind of like closed into your own structure and your own routine, which there's nothing wrong with that. But in contrast, I would say that long-term traveling allows the universe to be a lot more creative with you. It allows a lot more opportunities to come along that wouldn't otherwise if you had a very fixed, controlled life. So the relationship with randomness and the relationship with mystery, traveling long term, opens up a lot of possibility, and it can be also frightening. But I'll give you some examples. So, if you've ever been on a plane and you sit down and you had a conversation with the person beside you, and it was just the conversation and the person that you really needed to meet, the conversation you really needed to have, just seemed like synchronized. So traveling on trains, on planes, in shuttles. This has the potential to happen all the time while you're traveling. And who knows who you're going to meet? Maybe they'll inspire you. Maybe they'll give you a tip on a cool place to go, and you end up going, and it's the most life-changing place that you could never have imagined. The randomness of meeting strangers in hostels or Airbnbs where there's like a host who is just an incredible Airbnb host and is so inspiring or wise or has like an amazing collection of books that you just fall in love with. Or, so being on the move allows the universe to bring you random situations all the time where you could be set up for just an amazing encounter or set up for success. Even joining like group tours or group hikes with people from around the world, like who are you going to talk to, and what opportunity might they have. So yeah, just really opening yourself up to the mystery. And then after months and years of experiencing those sorts of things on the regular, you start to develop a very different relationship with your trust in the universe. So it doesn't mean everything's going to turn out really beautiful, because there's a lot of challenges, but you start to know that the universe is really for you when you courageously put yourself out there. That usually it's more good than harm that comes your way, and it opens up the way for opportunities and cool synchronicities and the right people to be at the right place at the right time. I've also had the opportunity to go to some pretty incredible retreats of different sorts, traveling. So, there are lots of different kinds of retreats out there, yoga, meditation, fitness, detox, plant medicine, so many different types of retreats. And yeah, some locations have kind of concentrations of certain types of retreats. Like when I was in Bali, there were a lot of detox retreats. And yeah, so if you're a retreat person, traveling can be really nice because you can go and experience some really different things. So some of my favorite places to live and why. I really loved staying in Bali. So I was in Bali. I've been there 3 times. And I've probably been like total there just over a year altogether. I stayed in Ubud. I had a really nice little place to live. I think it was like $500 a month, and it included Wi-Fi and room cleaning and breakfast. And it was like partly in the jungle and partly near town, just a kind of a perfect location. I loved living there because they had excellent Wi-Fi for working as a digital nomad, and really healthy, fresh food, again, for very inexpensive. I love the food in Bali. And if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, even better, because they've got some really flavorful, tasty options. Also love Mexico as a digital nomad and long-term traveler. So some of my favorite places that I have lived for months at a time have been Lake Chapala near Guadalajara. I was there for 8 months. As well, the Mayan Riviera is so nice. It's a little bit more touristy, but they're on the good side. There's lots of people to meet. So like Playa del Carmen and Bacalar, Puerto Morelos, that whole strip. There tends to be reliable internet. There are some places that I have visited that have been lovely, like Mazunte and Zipolite, but the internet was very unreliable. So if you're working online, not so great. And then, let's see, Ubud, Bali, Mexico. I'd say that those have been my favorites as a digital nomad who, doesn't want to spend too much money but still want to have a really nice lifestyle. There are many more places, but those are the 2 top ones for me. And I also just wanted to say, like when you start out traveling, you don't always know how it's going to work. You probably don't have a plan to be traveling long term. At least I know I didn't. I planned to spend my savings and then go back to Canada. And then one thing led to another. It's so interesting to be on the road and meet different people and hear the stories of how they support themselves as they travel. It really has to be your dream. It's not for everybody. But there are so many different ways people make it work creatively. And I think through intention and through prayer and through faith. When my savings ran out, it was just before they ran out, I ended up getting a job online. And I have no experience with computers. If you know me, you know I'm not very tech savvy. And so my money had almost run out, and I got this bill on my credit card that I didn't recognize for $50. And I'm like, what is this? I looked up what is this company, and it was a company called Yoga Trade that advertises work and volunteer opportunities, and it was a yearly subscription that I had been paying to have access to this site, and I forgot about it. And so I was like, out of curiosity, I'm going to go on the website and see if there's any work, and I found a job. And that was 3 years ago. So, you know, I I wasn't even looking for a computer job because I didn't think that there would be something for me who didn't have much computer training, but it worked out the way that it did. So I really do believe that, like, if you take the first step with anything, the universe will meet you. You know, I've met so many people who started off traveling and they had a plan to go for a few months, and then while they were abroad, someone offered them an opportunity and they ended up taking it, and then years passed and they are still there. Or something like that. So the stories that you hear are very inspiring. They kind of put you in a receptive mode, like, okay, if other people can do this, I can do this too. Again, it's not for everybody, but this is how it ended up happening for me. And saving money too, like sometimes you really need to save money, and Workaway, HelpX, those work trade places are so great for that. And you don't need to know what you're doing. Those kind of places show you how to do the work they want done. The last Workaway I was at was in Ireland, and there was actually a guy there who was like, I think he was like 68 years old. Um, he had been doing work trade for 2 years. And when I left, he was learning how to drive a tractor. So it's just really refreshing and cool to be able to learn from and be around people who are doing these kind of things. It just kind of sparks your curiosity and your zest for life. Um, yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say for this video. But if you are a traveler and you have any tips for, traveling long term on a budget, or things that you appreciate about being a long term traveler to inspire us, we would love to hear. And yeah, I think that's all. Other than that, journey well.